Have you ever felt like everyone else is moving forward while you're standing still? No matter how hard you try, there's always someone who seems smarter, more talented, or more successful. It's frustrating, isn't it? Today, we're going to explore the hidden cost of comparison, the way it quietly steals your confidence, distracts your focus, and makes you doubt your own journey. By the end, you'll see why comparing yourself to others can be one of the biggest obstacles to personal growth. Comparison is something deeply rooted in human nature. From an evolutionary perspective, our brains developed the habit of evaluating our place within a group as a survival mechanism. In early human societies, understanding where we stood, whether we were strong, weak, dominant, or vulnerable, helped us find our role and increase our chances of survival. This instinct is still with us today, but instead of small tribes, we now live in a hyper-connected world where we are constantly exposed to thousands of lives at once. Modern social media has amplified this instinct to an extreme level. Instead of comparing ourselves to a few people in our immediate surroundings, we now compare ourselves to celebrities, influencers, strangers, and even idealized versions of people we know. Platforms like Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn often show only highlight reels. The best moments, the successes, the filtered photos, not the struggles and failures behind the scenes. As a result, we unconsciously measure our ordinary, everyday reality against someone else's carefully curated image, creating a dangerous psychological imbalance. There are two main types of comparison that often happen without us realizing it. The first is upward comparison, when we compare ourselves to those we perceive as above us. This could be someone with a better job, more followers, a more attractive appearance, or greater achievements. Sometimes upward comparison can motivate us, inspiring us to grow. But more often, it leads to feelings of inadequacy, insecurity, and frustration, especially when the gap seems too wide to bridge. The second is downward comparison, when we compare ourselves to those we perceive as below us. This type may give a temporary boost to our ego, making us feel better about ourselves, but it doesn't lead to real growth or satisfaction. Instead, it can create a false sense of superiority and distract us from our personal development. The danger of comparison lies in how it ignores context. We often compare our behind the scenes, the messy, unfiltered parts of our lives, to someone else's best moments. A student might feel less intelligent after seeing a classmate's perfect grades without knowing how many hours they studied. A young professional might feel like a failure after seeing peers post about promotions and travels, unaware of the struggles happening off-screen. Even content creators might doubt themselves when their growth seems slower than others, without realizing the different strategies, resources, or timelines involved. When we compare without understanding context, we set unrealistic standards for ourselves. This leads to jealousy, dissatisfaction, and a constant feeling of being behind, even when we're making real progress. At first, comparison may seem harmless, even motivating. But when it becomes constant and unchecked, it can lead to serious mental, emotional, and behavioral consequences that quietly affect many areas of life. On a mental level, comparison often increases anxiety and fuels self-doubt. When people constantly look at others' achievements, beauty, or success, they start questioning their own worth. This is where feelings of never being enough take root. Even if someone is objectively making progress in their career, studies, or personal growth, comparison can distort their perception, making real achievements feel insignificant. Over time, this leads to what psychologists call imposter syndrome, a state where individuals feel like frauds, believing they don't truly deserve their success and that others are always more competent. The behavioral consequences are equally significant. When people feel like they're behind, they often start delaying their goals, second-guessing their choices, or quitting too early. For example, a person who wants to start a new business might abandon their idea after comparing it to someone else's already successful company. A student may stop pursuing a passion because they believe others are naturally more talented. Instead of focusing on self-improvement, individuals shift their energy towards seeking external validation, likes, approval, or recognition. This shift is subtle but powerful, as it moves the center of control from inside the person to the outside world. In the long term, chronic comparison can shape a person's identity. People begin defining themselves not by their values, passions, or goals, but by the standards set by others. This creates a fragile sense of self that depends on constantly measuring up. It also reduces authenticity, because instead of expressing their unique ideas and talents, individuals try to mimic what seems to be successful elsewhere. As a result, creativity suffers. People become less willing to take risks, fearing judgment or failure in comparison to others' polished outcomes. From an educational and psychological perspective, this phenomenon is not new. In 1954, social psychologist Leon Festinger introduced the social comparison theory, which explains how individuals determine their own social and personal worth based on how they stack up against others. Modern research has expanded on this, especially in the age of social media. Multiple studies have found strong links between frequent online comparison and increased rates of anxiety, depression, and lower self-esteem. Platforms that highlight success stories and edited images often intensify these effects, creating unrealistic expectations of what life should look like. Ultimately, the hidden consequences of comparison go far beyond momentary envy. It reshapes how we think, act, and even define who we are. Recognizing these effects is the first step toward regaining control over our mindset and focusing on our authentic path. The way we view other people's success has a powerful impact on how we feel about ourselves. Most of the negative effects of comparison come from the lens through which we see the world. If we constantly see others as competition, every achievement around us becomes a threat, and every success story turns into a reminder of what we lack. But if we change the lens, we can transform comparison into something far more positive: inspiration and learning. Instead of asking, "Why are they so far ahead?" try asking, "What can I learn from them?" Every person has a unique set of strengths, experiences, and opportunities. Someone might be excelling in an area because they've been working on it for years, because their background aligns with it, or simply because their timeline is different. Recognizing that everyone has a different journey helps us release the pressure to measure ourselves on the same scale. What matters is not how fast someone else is moving, but the direction and consistency of our own steps. A practical way to shift focus is to practice gratitude and self-awareness. One simple technique is to regularly list your personal wins, no matter how small they may seem. Did you improve a skill this week? Finish a project? Take a step outside your comfort zone. Write it down. Over time, this builds a personal record of growth that is far more meaningful than external comparisons. Another technique is to track your progress over time. By seeing how far you've come, you reinforce the idea that growth is personal and continuous, not a race against others. Shifting from "what they have" to "what I'm building" changes everything. It places your attention back where it belongs, on your own path. This doesn't mean ignoring other people's achievements. In fact, acknowledging and celebrating their success without resentment can be empowering. It allows you to draw lessons from their journey while staying rooted in your own goals. It's also essential to understand context. What we usually see from others are their polished results, the perfect picture, the award announcement, the highlight moment. What we don't see are the countless hours of work, the failures, the doubts, and the sacrifices that came before. By remembering this, we can reduce emotional reactions to others' success. Instead of feeling threatened, we can view their achievements as proof that growth is possible, not as evidence that we're behind. Reframing how we see others doesn't happen overnight, but with awareness and practice, it can turn comparison from a source of pain into a tool for personal growth and inspiration. Understanding why comparison happens is important, but the real transformation begins when you apply practical strategies to manage it in everyday life. Toxic comparison doesn't disappear overnight. It fades when you create habits that shift your attention from others back to your own journey. The first strategy is to limit exposure. Social media is one of the biggest triggers of comparison today. By curating your feed, you can control what influences your mindset. Follow people who genuinely inspire, educate, or motivate you, rather than those who make you feel inadequate. Unfollow or mute accounts that constantly trigger insecurity, even if they belong to friends or celebrities. This isn't about avoiding reality. It's about protecting your mental space and choosing what you allow to shape your self-perception. The second strategy is to set personal benchmarks. Many people chase goals that aren't truly theirs. They follow what society, family, or peers expect, rather than defining success on their own terms. Ask yourself, what does success mean to me? Your answer might be different from someone else's, and that's perfectly okay. When your goals are authentic, it's easier to stay focused and less tempting to compare. The third strategy is to track your own journey. It's easy to forget how far you've come when you're always looking at others. Journaling your progress, keeping a skills log, or even writing down milestones can help you see your growth clearly. Whether it's learning a new language, building a business, or improving your health, progress is often invisible in the short term, but powerful in the long run. Next, celebrate small wins. Many people wait for big achievements to acknowledge their progress, but growth happens in tiny steps. Recognizing these moments builds momentum and reinforces self-worth from within, rather than relying on external validation. Even finishing a small task, staying consistent for a week, or improving slightly is worth celebrating. Finally, shift from competition to contribution. Instead of constantly trying to prove your worth or outdo others, focus on how you can create value. Whether it's sharing your knowledge, helping someone else, or working on meaningful projects, contribution brings a sense of fulfillment that comparison cannot. When you focus on what you can give, your energy turns outward in a positive way, and your self-esteem grows naturally. These strategies may seem simple, but when practiced consistently, they build a strong foundation of self-awareness and resilience. Toxic comparison loses its power when you stop measuring your worth by others and start owning your unique path. In the past, people compared themselves mainly to family members, neighbors, classmates, or colleagues, the small circles around them. But in the digital age, the landscape of comparison has completely changed. Social media has turned our phones into windows, showing carefully curated highlights of millions of lives. This constant exposure dramatically shapes the way we see ourselves and the world. One key factor is social media algorithms. These algorithms are designed to keep users engaged for as long as possible. To do that, they prioritize content that triggers strong emotions: joy, outrage, envy, or fascination. Posts that make people react strongly are more likely to appear on your feed. This means that glamorous success stories, perfect vacation pictures, luxury lifestyles, and achievement announcements often get pushed to the top. Over time, this creates a distorted sense of normal, where it seems like everyone else is living a flawless, exciting, and successful life, while your own routine feels dull and inadequate in comparison. This phenomenon isn't just theoretical. There's growing evidence that excessive online comparison has real psychological consequences. For example, studies have found that young adults who spend more than 3 hours a day on social media are significantly more likely to report symptoms of anxiety, depression, and low self-esteem. The constant exposure to idealized images and achievements can make individuals feel isolated, behind, or less worthy, even when their lives are objectively going well. Real stories from students, professionals, and creators show similar patterns: feelings of exhaustion, self-doubt, and pressure to keep up with unrealistic standards. However, the situation isn't hopeless. The key lies in mindful consumption. Instead of passively scrolling, we can choose to take control of what we see and how we engage with it. This starts with being intentional, unfollowing accounts that trigger negative emotions, setting boundaries for screen time, and consciously selecting content that inspires or educates rather than pressures. A powerful tool for self-awareness is self-reflection. Before engaging with content online, ask yourself simple but honest questions like, is this making me better or bitter? Or is this inspiring me or making me feel inadequate? These questions can help interrupt automatic emotional reactions and bring awareness back into your digital habits. In the digital age, comparison is everywhere, but our response to it is still within our control. By understanding how online environments shape our perceptions and by making mindful choices, we can protect our mental well-being and maintain a healthier, more balanced perspective on our own journey. We've explored a powerful truth throughout this lesson. Comparison is part of human nature, but toxic comparison is something we learn through culture, media, and our digital environments. When left unchecked, it slowly erodes our confidence, focus, and joy. It makes us chase illusions rather than build real progress. However, comparison doesn't have to control us. By reframing how we see others, not as competition, but as sources of inspiration, we can turn comparison into a tool for growth. By setting personal standards instead of following external expectations, we take back control of our direction. And through mindful consumption of social media, we protect our mental space from unrealistic narratives. Remember this mindset message: your journey is not a race. Growth takes time, and no one's path is identical. Everyone moves at a different speed, with different opportunities and obstacles. When you accept that truth, comparison loses its power over you. Now, let's turn this lesson into a practical listening exercise to strengthen your English skills. First, listen to this entire video without subtitles. Focus on understanding the overall message and main ideas. Second, listen again with English subtitles. This time, pay attention to new vocabulary, sentence structure, and pronunciation. Third, listen once more while taking notes. Write down useful phrases or expressions you can apply in your own conversations or writing. This three-step method trains both your comprehension and active language skills. With repetition, you'll notice real improvement over time. And finally, remember, when you stop comparing and start appreciating your own path, you don't just improve your English, you transform your life.